Hi guys, I'm Shakir, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the basics of web development. Web development is important because the internet has become an essential part of our lives. Everything from shopping, banking and socializing and entertainment is now done online. And this trend is only going to grow. There is a high demand for skilled web developers who can create and maintain websites that are secure, user-friendly and visually appealing. By learning these technologies, you will gain valuable skills that are in high demand in the job market. You can use the skills to create your own website or land a job as a web developer. Moreover, understanding web development can help you communicate more effectively with the designers or developers and give you a better understanding of how the internet actually works. Understanding web development can also help you create and manage your own website or blog. Even if you're using a content management system like WordPress or Squarespace, having the basic understanding of HTML, CSS and JavaScript can help you customize these websites, troubleshoot issues, and make it more user-friendly. So let's start with what is HTML. Now, HTML is an acronym, that is a word that's formed by the initial letters of a line or a phrase like hypertext markup language. Essentially, it's a language that is used for the content of the web pages. HTML is responsible for the structuring of the content such as text, images, videos in the web page. When you're reading a web page, the text and images that you see that are displayed through the HTML code. In addition to displaying the code, the HTML also provides some kind of structure. Like if you're building a house together, you can think of the raw materials such as concrete, wood, bricks as HTML. Now these materials are put together to form the foundation, wall and roof, but they don't look very appealing or functional. The interior and the exterior design, the colors are handled by the CSS to make it appealing and livable. Finally, the wiring, plumbing and other electrical components are handled via JavaScript. So a house needs both a structure and the interior design to be fully functional and livable. Now let's talk about what is CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It is also a language that is used to define the style and appearance of the website. It includes details such as font, type, background color, spacing, layout, and other design elements. Essentially, CSS provides the rule of how different elements on the web page should look and be displayed. To use the house analogy, we can think of CSS as the interior and exterior design. It determines what are the color of the wall, what is the type of the flooring, the furniture in each room. Now, CSS is responsible for creating the visual appeal of the website, just as the interior and exterior design can enhance the beauty of a house. Additionally, CSS can be used to define the functionality of the website, such as the house design can affect the livability and the practicality. For instance, CSS can define how a website is laid out and how it is easy to navigate, just as the design of the house influences its functionality and ease of use. Now let's discuss about JavaScript. It is possible to create a fully functional website using only HTML and CSS without any JavaScript. There are examples on the web where the website is created only with HTML and CSS. But sometimes websites require JavaScript. While some websites require JavaScript, it is important to note that not everything needs JavaScript. Now, JavaScript was specifically designed to run on the web page, but it has now expanded and it is used in many other contexts. HTML and CSS can be thought as non-interactive web pages, much like pages in the book. All the content, images, fonts and spacing are present, but the page is not interactive. It is like a static image that can be viewed but not interacted with. In contrast, JavaScript transforms a non-interactive page into an interactive app, much like how touchscreen apps allow us to move things around and have pop-ups and start animations. While there is some overlap between CSS and JavaScript and what they can do, they work differently. In essence, the CSS is responsible for the layout and the visual design of the web page, and JavaScript provides the interactive and functionality. So let's begin constructing our first website. Although it may not look very visually appealing at first because we will not be using any CSS, it will still serve a purpose. We will be utilizing HTML, which is a markup language. It is not really a programming language since it doesn't perform any action. It is similar to, let's say, English, that you cannot execute it. The concept is same for HTML. It only defines the language and the images on the web page, which makes up the static and unchangeable content. So let's open up the Visual Studio and we'll create a document and let's get started. Let's open up Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new document and save it in the new folder. Let's create a new folder, call it blog. Open it and here we can create a new file. Let's name it index.html. Why we are naming it index? It is because of the convention. The root file is always named as index.html, but you can name it other name as well. So once we have the index.html file, in Visual Studio we can type HTML5 and this will create the scaffolding for us to work on. That is the basic structure we need for any HTML page. Let's understand the tags. This first tag, doctype HTML, this indicates that the language that we are going to use is HTML5, and it's one of the major releases. The next language, lang equal to en, it indicates that the document is going to be in English. It's one of the important tag of the HTML document, so you need to include it. Next comes the head tags. So the head tag has all the important metadata, and it tells the browser how to handle browser sizing, character sets that we are going to use in the page, what is the title going to be, if there is going to be a favorite icon, where is the CSS located, and other such information. So the head tag contain all the important metadata. Nothing that gets displayed on the HTML, like the headings or the title, are put in the head tag. They're always put in the body tag. So all the tags with the meta indicate that they are giving some information to the browser on how to handle the document. For example, the char set UTF-8, it says the document is written using a character set UTF-8. It's basically the character set contains all the characters, letters, numbers, emojis, everything that we expect to use in the document. We can get rid of this line. It is for the IE edge case. The next line viewport, it is letting the browser know that how to handle mobile devices like phone and small tablets. So if you don't put this line, what the browser will try to do is it will try to zoom out the whole website that we have created and create a view out of it. So this tag is telling the browser to treat our content better in the way that we are expecting. The title tag shows up in the browser tab. The title tag lets us set the title of our document. For example, I can call this a blog, and this will be the title, and this is what will show up in the search results when the people search it in Google. And all the visible content that we have in our website is in the body tag, like all the H1 title, all the tags that we are going to use. So this is called the bare bold skeleton of the HTML. So this is one HTML doc. Like this, we can have multiple docs in a website. Use the same skeleton. Here I changed the title, but I accidentally inserted another tag. You can ignore that as about me, and another anchor tag pointing us back to the index.html and call it go home. Studio, you can just run it on a server like this, or you can even drag and drop the file in the browser. If I go home, I go to the about me. So in the index, we can type ahref, anchor href, and point it to the document about.html, call it about. So yeah, if you type about, we go to the about me page, and when we click go home, we go to the home page. So these things are called tags. Now tags are the basic building block of HTML. Each tag, it defines and describes the content. When we say define and describes, basically it sets the boundaries and limitations of how the page is going to be, how we are going to structure the document. Now each tag has an opening tag and a closing tag. Like for the anchor tag, this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. So let's look at this example, the H1 tag. This is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. An opening tag can contain some information, or it could have additional tags inside it. For example, the body tags has additional tags inside it. The H1 tag is the heading tag, which is used for the bigger title on the page, typically the main title of our page. When rendered in the browser, it will appear as a large title on the web page. So using the H1 tag in HTML is not just about making our text look bigger and bolder, although certainly that's one of the effects. When designing the website, it's important for us to consider how they'll be read and understood by the various users and technologies. For example, screen readers, which are used by differently abled people, they rely heavily on the HTML tags, and it helps them convey some important information to the users who are blind or visually impaired. And also the search engines like Google and Bing uses HTML tags to understand the structure and contents of the web pages. So tag, whether they are opening tag or closing tags, are always surrounded by the angular brackets. There are certain tags that are called the self-closing tag, like if I say like this. So there is no separate closing tag. This itself has the slash in it, so it's both opening and closing tag. These are called void tags. Also, the tags are always opened and closed in a specific order. That is, the most recently opened tag has to be closed next, like in this case. So here I cannot put something else. Like here I cannot put an anchor tag and then try to close this anchor tag here. This is not going to work. So the H1 has to be closed before we close, for example, the body tag. All the H tags, for example, H1, there is an H2 tag, there is an H3 tag, H4, H5, H6. There are 6 levels of heading tags. They are called subheadings. You can see on the top, we have the HTML tag, which has the H1 tag, and below that, we have different types of tags. This is H2. This is H3, this is H4, this is H5. This is how the tags would look like on the page. We have the paragraph tag where we can put some text. Only text goes inside the paragraph tag. An anchor tag is used when we want to link to somewhere else, like we have a destination that we want the user to go. It is used as href equal to. Once we have the anchor tag, we can see it will be visible here. When we click on Google, we go to Google Docs. The next important tag is the div tag. It is a short form for division. You can think of it as a cardboard box. It's not really anything by itself, but it defines what goes inside it. So it's a generic container tag, and it is used for grouping of things together. Just like imagine you have a cardboard box and you put a lot of toys in it or clothes in it. So it is defined by what you put in it. We'll be using a lot of div tags in our HTML, and they work very well with the CSS. So in general, whenever we want to group things together which are of similar nature, we can put them in the div tag. For example, our website has a list of blog posts and each has a paragraph, title, image. We can group them together and put them in the div tag. For example, if I add the div tag, it wouldn't be visible here. But if I add some styling to it, where I'll add some width, height of 100 pixel and a background color of red, we can see that a red box has appeared. There's another tag called span tag. You can think it as a Ziploc bag. It's a container or small piece of text. For example, if I have span tag here, I can use this to highlight this item. I can now give some styling to this span tag. I'll add an attribute called text decoration with value underline. You can see that the text is now underlined. The header tag in HTML5 is used to define the introductory or the navigational content of the web page. It's typically used on the top of the page and can contain logo, branding, site navigation menu, and other contents that are important. The header tag can also be used to define some kind of introductory material or a content of the web page. Header tag can also be used to wrap the content of the section or an article that acts as an introduction of that page. It can provide structure and context to the page. The nav tag is an HTML5 element that is used to define the section of the web page that contain navigation links. It is often used with the header tag or footer tag to create navigational menus or list of links that help user navigate the site. The nav tag is an important element that helps the search engine and the screen readers identify the purpose of the content it contains. It can help make it easier for developer to style and manipulate the content within the nav tag. For example, the nav tag can have an unordered list. It is created by using the tags like UL, and then under UL you put li and then provide a link like ahref and labels like home, about, contact us. We can style it later. Let's add a logo to the website. Use the source attribute to mention the location and alt for the visually impaired. Point this to the image. This image is too big, so we need the style to modify it. I'm giving 100 pixel, looks small enough. In this example, the header contains both logo and the navigational menu, and it provides an important context for the user to help them understand what the site they are on and how to navigate it. Main tag and footer tag are also used to contain the main contents and footer contents of the page respectively. The OL and UL both represent a list. It is a list of things that can be shuffled and still mean the same thing. For example, if we want to list all the teams in a football tournament or all the movie stars, they could be represented in any order. An ordered list is an organized list. What comes first matter. For example, if you ask the list of the 10 most populous cities in the world, there is an order to that, and changing the order makes the list incorrect. A button can be used by JavaScript to respond to a user clicking it, or can be used by a form to signal a user has completed filling it and should submit it. Think of it as a doorbell of your house. When you put a doorbell, but nothing is going to happen unless you connect it to some kind of a buzzer. The image tag is used to load the images on the page. This can be confusing because you can use CSS to bring in images on the web page too. But the key difference is if image is part of the content, like a picture of your travel or some data you want to show about your presentation, then you should use image tag. If it is a background image or some kind of decoration on the website, then we can use the CSS. As you can see, these images are really big, so we need to control them by giving them an height and width. So this is just a bunch of images with height and width 200 pixels. The next tag is the input tag. Input tag helps us capture input from the user, and the browser is really good at providing us different options to capture it. One of the most common input is the textual input, and for that we can use input type equal to text. You can see an empty box with no label. You have also tags for color, file, number, date, time, radio, and checkbox. We can see them listed here one beside the other. This is for choosing the color. This is for uploading a file. This is for the numbers. This is for the calendar. And this is radio and checkbox. Sometimes we want to limit the user to certain group of options to select from, like which package you want to choose if you're going on a travel holiday. A select is a user interactive input that a user can select an option from the drop-down menu, and option is one of the choices available. Each option needs a value that will be sent back to the server if the user selects that option. What's inside the option is what's shown to the user. Now, form is a group of HTML tags that are used to gather data from the user. They are some combinations of either text boxes or text area and select tags, and they can then use this form element to send the data to the server. The form tag itself doesn't show anything, it's just a container of other tags. For example, the form with placeholder first name and last name is shown as this. So some of the attributes, they only belong to the tag in which it makes sense. By modifying the href attribute of an anchor tag, we modify the behavior of what the tag does. Similarly, the type attribute of the input tag, by changing the type, we are changing what sort of input is being shown to the user. There are other attributes like class and IDs that are universal and they can be applied to all tags. They themselves are inert, that is, they don't do anything by themselves, but they allow other things to find them later. Classes are more useful than ID. Use classes almost always, maybe 90% of the time. The class is reusable. I can create another tag and use the same CSS style to apply to it. You can also give multiple classes to one tag. Classes are more versatile and practical than IDs. Although there are some scenarios where we want to use the ID. One key difference is ID must be unique, whereas you can reuse a class multiple times. IDs are meant to be exclusive to the single element on the page. The only time you should use ID is that if something is genuinely unique and it must remain that way. So let's just create a quick news feed where we'll see a bunch of posts. Each post could have an author, date, it was posted, a profile picture, and message itself about what user posted. Notice we keep everything in a div, and as we said, it's a container that's a cardboard box, and we have this post, we keep it all together in this encapsulating div. We could also have used some article tag. As far as the browser is concerned, the difference between article tag and div tag is nothing. But we have to keep in mind that once we write something, we have to go back later to modify it and maintain it. So it would make sense to make it obvious the intention of tags. So here I have added a div, a main div called the blog feed, and wherein I have added 3 blog posts. This is the first, this is the second, and this is the third. In each blog post, we have a div called with the class called blog post. It has a heading h2 and h3, which talks about the main title and when it was posted on, and the image I have pointed it to a source, image 1, image 2, image 3, and a small paragraph. So we now have 3 blog posts in this div. So now let's just add a navigation bar to this. This obviously is in style, but we can always use CSS to style it. These links don't go anywhere because we haven't defined the href property. If we point them to Google, then all of them, when we click, will take us to Google. If we have the link as /news, it would take us to whatever example we are following, example/news. It is relative to the base URL. We don't have a nav class, and if you only have one nav in the website, then that is okay. But if you have multiple navs, maybe one in the footer, then it would make sense to have a class and give styling to it separately. We have chosen UL and LI for our navigational elements, but we could have done the same thing with divs inside divs and then use classes to differentiate them. They both are totally valid ways of doing it. And for naming, we named them navlist, but we could also name them head navigation or any such things. So whatever makes sense to you, you can use. Naming in general is hard. So basically, this is 90% of all the HTML you're going to need in a project. We'll learn more about the styling and the interactivity in the coming videos. I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.